I'm Dr. Kimberly Manning.
And this is Dr. Ashley McMullen. And you're listening to the Human Doctor Podcast, where we explore the human side of medicine, along with teaching, living, learning, and all things in between. Using the power of storytelling, conversation, and connectedness.
Hey, we're two dope academic internal medicine doctors, but we ain't your doctors. So if you perceive anything we say here as medical advice, no, it ain't that. Also, the things we say, they only reflect our brilliant Black woman magic mind and not our employers.
You could have been anywhere, y'all, but you chose to be here with us, and we appreciate you. Let's go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes.
After another 45 minutes.
I know. And
Why
that
do
was
we
a good
always do
conversation too. I'm sorry.
I know, y'all. We be having to like unpack before we do the actual podcast. But some of it is because we start talking about like personal things that like, no offense to y'all, but it ain't none of your business.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say, first of all, the thing that I love about this entire outfit, I think your nails are beautiful.
Thank you.
I love the color.
You see, they're like kind of sparkly too.
Yeah, it's giving very like Dorothy Ruby Slippers vibes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for noticing. I actually tend to be a creature of habit and get the same colors, but I let somebody else pick, and that was a good thing.
Okay, who picked?
The lady who was sitting next to the lady doing my nails.
Oh wow.
I was like, there's okay, so here's the funny thing. There's this color, it's called Lincoln Park After Dark. It's like this dark wine color. In the fall, that's what I get the whole fall.
Okay.
And then in the summer, I just get my nails painted either white or some shade of like beige or tan or something like that. So I said Lincoln Park, and the lady who does my nails, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you always get the same color." And I was like, I said, I'm overwhelmed by that basket. I already told you when you guys showed me all those colors. I don't want to try to think about that. And that interrupts my relaxation of this experience. And I was like, so somebody else can pick a color as long as I can stand it for 2 weeks. So the woman next to her, who was also one of the technicians who works there, she's like, I got a color for you. And I was like, okay. Long as it ain't pink, long as it ain't green, we okay. She brought it over there, and I said, "Oh, sparkles. Okay, that's what we doing."
Okay.
So, yeah,
She made a good choice.
Thank you. I'll let her know that you liked it. So, how are you today on a scale of 1 to 5?
I'm gonna say a 4.7.
Oh, that's kind of high.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I already just spent the first 45 minutes kind of expounding all of my woes. So let me tell you what's bringing me joy. I think one of the things that I was noticing this morning that makes me happy is the sunrises change in the winter, and the colors are just, so much more vibrant, I feel like. And it's also later, so I can sleep in a little bit and still appreciate the sunrise. So that's always something that I feel that I try to do in the mornings. I got nice windows facing towards the sunrise. That's something that's bringing me joy. I also got to shout out my yoga spot, Soul Flow Yoga in Oakland. Soul Flow. Yes. Black woman owned, queer owned. It's like, I don't know if anybody's into yoga. I considered myself like the least flexible person on the face of the earth.
Okay.
And I started going there probably like in March of this year, particularly when I was like early on kind of struggling with my running because I just wasn't feeling good in my body. And having like a consistent yoga practice has been a game changer.
You're probably adding years to your life.
That's what I'm trying to do. We've been talking about longevity. So it's and it's a very accessible like community, because I think when I've gone in the past, I felt very out of place in some studios, whether it's the intensity or like the people there. And this really embodies just like inclusivity, and it's just like it's the right spot for me.
And is SoFlo in Oakland?
Yeah, it is literally down the street from me.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. I'm gonna have to take you next time you come.
Yeah, you will find that there is somebody who is less limber than you, and that would be me. But yeah, I thought about Oakland and your weather yesterday because I was watching football
Hmm.
and the Los Angeles Rams
Hmm.
played the San Francisco 49ers
Hmm.
yesterday, I guess in San Francisco.
Yep.
But the sky was impossibly blue.
Yep.
The weather looked so it's funny how the blue sky in on the West Coast, it just looks totally different than out here. Like a
Yeah.
really beautiful day out there just looks different than a beautiful day here. And both are beautiful in their own way.
Hmm.
But I was just thinking like, oh, Ashley is probably somewhere near this weather in Oakland,
Yes.
soaking it up and loving it. I'm sorry that the 49ers, I'm not actually sorry the 49ers won. They
It's,
lost. So pretty
I,
weather and all, LA beat y'all.
it's
But
fair. Yeah.
it
No,
was
yesterday was a beautiful day. So
yeah,
I'm glad you noticed.
I did notice. You know
Hmm.
what else I noticed about myself yesterday?
What?
I like football, as you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm sorry to those who don't, because I know people got all kinds of feelings about
Yep.
this, but I realized that I root for people, not
Oh,
teams.
okay.
Most of the time when I'm watching football, I'm watching it alone. Even though we have, me and my husband both like football, we're usually watching it on different TVs
Hmm.
because the way we react is just totally different. But like, I'll be watching the game and I'll be like, okay, okay, so yesterday the Baltimore Ravens were playing the Minnesota Vikings. Well, I like Lamar Jackson, who is their quarterback. I like that brother, so I'm rooting for him. But then I like the receiver, um, uh, Justin Jefferson, who's on the Minnesota Vikings, and my friend from Tuskegee, her son, Dallas Turner plays also for the Vikings. So I am
Mm.
rooting for each of the individual people.
Okay.
So while I was watching the LA San Francisco game, I'm watching the game and I'm sort of rooting for, LA's the home team. So I'm
Yep.
kind of, rooting for LA sort of. But really, really, I like a couple of the players on San Francisco. So I was like, oh, Kittle, great job. And Harry's like, wait a minute, why are you cheering about this dude right here? I was like, oh, because I like Kittle. I like Kittle. But then, I like this person over here on the LA side. He was like, I cannot watch football with you. You do too much. So,
Hmm.
if no matter what city you're from, if you call me and tell me your child is playing any game, even if it's ultimate frisbee, I will root for your child, but I might be rooting for somebody on the other team at the same time.
I can respect that. Definitely can.
Yeah, this way, like everybody wins.
Hmm.
This is what I realize. I'm often, with the exception of my child's team, I'm
Hmm.
very rarely disappointed by a game's outcome because it's
Hmm.
usually somebody on each side that I'm rooting for. Somebody's son, the brother who's the coach. Like,
Yeah, and I wish I could be in that same camp. I take losses deeply personally. It's
oh.
it's part of the reason why I don't watch a lot of Houston sports anymore because it was just so emotionally like depleting.
But when y'all win, y'all win. When
Hmm.
y'all doing it. But it's been a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I got to root from afar. I can't take it anymore.
I am so sorry to hear that.
Thank you. What's your number today?
I think I'm about a 4.5 today.
Okay,
That's a
that's
little low for
a
me, I
little lower for
know.
you, yeah.
A little lower for me. As I was telling you in our preamble discussion, 55 is a really weird age. It's a good age because you're wise and you know, live life and you've experienced a lot of things. I love being a part of the generation I'm a part of. I remember no cell phones. I remember TV going off at a certain time.
Mm,
I remember a lot of things and hip hop being born and all that. But I'm at the age now where I feel very mortal. I have a lot of near peers who are losing their parents, and their parents are, late 70s, 80s, um, and then 55 is old enough for people to unfortunately get all sorts of diagnoses.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm seeing that. And then 55 is old enough to have people with adult kids whose kids have things going on.
Mhm.
So it's a really like weird space to be in. And I know that the people who are in my generation, who are hearing this, they are probably nodding so hard because it's like everywhere you turn, there's some sort of a sucker punch. And I know that sounds kind of macabre, but it's really true. And I just need to call it out for what it is. Like
Yeah.
this, and you know, now I have a lot of sympathy for when people get to like their 70s and 80s and their near peers, you know, start dying of natural causes or air quotes, what are considered natural causes. Um,
Mm.
yeah, being mortal, like nobody can get out of this life alive, you know?
Yeah.
And the older you get and the more proximate you get to people's troubles and mortality, the more you start to feel your own. So
Mm.
that has me at about a 4.5.
It's real. It's
Yeah.
important to name. And I was also telling you how much perspective it gives me. Because it's easy to go through life not appreciating stuff while you got it.
Yeah, it is, especially yourself,
Yeah.
you know, because after all the stuff that I just said, um, this morning I got up and I worked out and I took a picture of myself after I worked out. And I looked in the mirror and I started talking to myself like I was a good friend of myself. And I was like, you know what? You know, you are not perfect. You are not the size that you were when you were like, you know, in college, but you are strong. You are smart. You live in a lovely home that you and another person have figured out how to maintain.
Mm.
You have two kids in college on full scholarships and you have a job you love, and you are a full professor and a whole MACP who down here doing, you know, burpees because you can and because you want to.
Yep.
And you know what, girl, shout out to you.
Yeah.
And I encourage anybody else who's listening just to take a moment to, you know, instead of, you know, because I originally took the picture of my body because I was like, let me show progress because I got to work on this. Like, oh, why don't we like right now point out what's dope,
Yeah.
you know?
I like
Like
that.
those deltoids you got in them arms. Them arms is arming. Maybe y'all, Ashley's arms, huh, her and Mrs. Obama. That's all I'm gonna say. If they walk in, you would not know one from the other.
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
Correct.
I'm carrying that affirmation today,
Yes,
this whole week,
you should
actually.
just be sleeveless for the rest of the year.
Well, I know we don't have as much time as we would like to spend with each other this morning, and it could
Mhm.
be hours.
Mhm.
That is very real.
Mhm.
But I know that your time is precious. I know that
Your time is
my
precious.
time is precious. And the time that our listeners have been tuning in, just waiting for, this last week to pass so they could get to this week and hear another incredible story from our most incredible storyteller, Dr. Manning.
Aw.
Sis, without further ado, what is the what?
Um, the what is interpret.
Interpret. Okay.
Have we ever used that?
We have not, and that's a good one. So I'm excited.
Yeah, interpret.
Hmm.
Um, I before when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about like, okay, what does that word even mean? So if somebody says interpret, what does that mean to you?
It means, or I guess to me, it's kind of like I can see it in the context of translation and not just from one language to another, but to like take what somebody else has said and kind of understand it in a certain way or to convey it in a certain way.
Yeah. To convey the meaning of something, right?
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So to make meaning of what somebody else is saying is to interpret it.
Hmm.
Sometimes interpretation can be like an emotional thing, like you said this and I interpreted it this way.
Hmm.
But for us in our job, a lot of times when we think of interpret, we think about when somebody does not have language concordance with us and they are in the hospital or somewhere and they, you speak English, they don't, and we call in somebody to help interpret. And so that's what I'm going to anchor on today. And I'm going to take you back probably about 10 years to an experience I had that has really shaped me a lot as a physician. And it also allows me to offer a bit of a love letter to our hospital interpreters.
Mm.
So I remember many years ago, I was on the hospital service and I had this period where, for whatever reason, it just seemed like quite a few of the patients admitted to my service were primarily Spanish speaking and required an interpreter. And fortunately, at Grady Hospital, we have in-person interpreters who
Yeah.
are, yeah, pretty readily available. I remember talking to my team, and there was a member of the team who spoke Spanish, and I was like, you know what? Let's call in the interpreter. So when the person showed up, the interpreter showed up, my resident says, "Oh, great. We're so glad you're here to translate for us." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm your interpreter." And she's like, "Yeah, well, this patient speaks some English, but we could definitely benefit from you being there to translate." She was like, "I'm happy to interpret." So then I stopped and I looked from side to side and I was like, "Okay, every time she says translate, you say interpret." And she's like, "Well, that's a bit of a pet peeve of ours. Translation is written to written, interpretation is spoken to spoken,
Mm.
or making sense of what somebody's saying. So we're interpreters, we're not translators." So one, that's just a plug on behalf of all of the interpreters out there, that don't call them translators, because they are, unless you got something written that you want them to translate into English. So the interpreter that day, as it turns out, she was, for whatever reason, every time I called, the same interpreter seemed to be the one to come. So after maybe about 3 or 4 exchanges with different patients, me, I'm pretty familiar with people. I started, getting real cozy and, chatty and familiar with her and everything. So I would see her in the hallways and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" She'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" Whatever. So one day I call again on it during the same time, and she comes over, and it's her. And I said, this is what you do. You're an expert at this. Is there something that you think that we should know as individuals who call you as an interpreter that could help us do a better job?" And she looked at me. First of all, she looked stunned because, one, part of your job is for you to disappear,
Hmm.
because that's part of your job. If you're doing your job well as an interpreter, you disappear. But then you also are a human being, so you want to be seen. And this is before we were in front of the patient. And she looked and she was like, "I really appreciate you asking me that, Dr. Manning." She's like, "You know what? If I could actually make a suggestion to you, I suggest you walk in and you talk to the patient exactly like you talk to anybody if they speak English, with pauses for me to interpret." And I was like, "Okay, but that's kind of what I do." She's like, "Well, no, not really, because I've been watching you." And she's like, and I'm saying this in the nicest way. She said, "It's just that you're all business." And I've actually been in a room interpreting while you were talking to an English speaking patient. And one of the things I actually noticed that you do around the hospital and when you're talking to patients is that you almost always have some kind of like a personal moment with them that doesn't really have to do with why they're in the hospital. I've noticed that when you come in with me and you do, you're doing a great job, but you know, it's all business. Do you hurt? How long has it hurt? Tell me about this. What is this? What is that? It's just all business. And I was like, huh. She's like, "So I don't know. Like, your patients who speak Spanish, they want to hear the jokes too. They want to partake in the fun too." And I looked at her and I said, "You know what? I actually, as a rule, I always have a moment with patients in the hospital where I ask them at least one or two things that has absolutely nothing to do with why they're in the hospital." And I realized I didn't do that with patients who speak Spanish. One, maybe because I feel like an urgency to get it over with because I have a whole grown person standing there who is got other people in queue. And I'm like, wow. She's like, "Yeah, but it's better for the patient. It makes them feel safer, makes them feel." So right after she tells me that, I walk in the room and I'm facing the patient and she stood like where the patient couldn't see her. And just started talking like regular. I was really coaching myself to just be like, hey, how you doing? And so this gentleman, on this particular day, he had come in because he had a swollen leg, and it appeared to be some sort of, cellulitis. He'd had some kind of cut or scratch or something that he had gotten at work. It had gotten super infected, and he had cellulitis, and we were treating him with IV antibiotics. So, I'm talking to him, I'm chopping it up with him, asking him initially the main questions, but then I was like, hey, so where did you grow up? And he was like, oh, well, at first I grew up in Guatemala, then I moved to Mexico. I lived in Mexico for a while. I was like, where about Mexico? And he was like, oh, I was living in Mexico City, and then for a while I went and worked here. I was like, dude, I went to Mexico City before, and Mexico City is lit. And she looked at me and she was like, and she's like, interpreted it. And
Uh-huh.
he's kind of youngish, so he was like, yeah, so we started talking about Mexico City. He was like, what was you doing in Mexico City? I was like, oh, I went to a wedding. It was crazy. It was fun. It lasted all night. He was like, oh, yeah, weddings in Mexico, they last all night. And I was like, yeah, it was crazy because so we kind of go on this offshoot for a while, and then we come back and we talk some more. So that was that. The following day, it was time for him to get discharged. He was doing better. I called the interpreter, and lucky for me, it's the same interpreter. And I feel like now I'm getting some like practice-based learning and improvement because
Mhm.
she's there watching and everything, and she positions herself in the same way. But this time when I came in the room, it wasn't even the thing where the patient was like looking at her. He was just looking right at me.
Mm.
I was like, "What's up? How you doing?" That's exactly how I greeted him. And she repeated that. And he was like, oh, I'm doing good. I was like, did you get out of bed and walk? He was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And we start talking some more and we just start, chopping it up. I start going over the discharge plans and I'm really not looking at her. I'm just saying things and pausing and saying things and pausing. And I was like, what questions do you have for me? He was like, oh, how long I gotta take this antibiotic and, talk about that a little bit more. And so I said, well, let me just take a look at your leg one last time. And my team tells me it's doing much better. So I pull the blanket back and his leg looks better. I was like, okay, your leg looks better. I said, but dude, what is up with these toenails? Started laughing, right? So, so I was like, bro, you need a pedicure. Like for real, can I write a prescription for you to get a pedicure for real? You need a pedicure. He was like, he was like, I don't think I've ever had a pedicure. All of this is happening in Spanish. Right. I was like, dude, you need a pedicure. So we are cracking up laughing about his pedicure. I said, you know what you should do? You should get a pedicure and you should get your toenails painted blue. And what I remember is he looked at his toes and he said, Los dedos azules. And we started dying laughing, right? And for whatever reason, Los dedos azules has always sort of been like something
Ah,
that stayed in my head
mhm.
because it was the moment that like there was no interpreter there. We were human to human.
Wow.
We're just chopping it up. And it was such a good moment. It was so good. It's funny because nothing about this was sad, but it almost makes me like want to cry a little bit
Mhm.
because it made me realize how many people I have not seen,
Mhm.
And this was so light, man, but um especially in this time where people are scared, they don't know if this is a safe place for them. Um just for somebody to have a moment where yeah, your health is better, but I see you.
Mm.
And that lesson I got from that interpreter. And since then, I've had that happen to me multiple times. I've had many more Los Dedos Azules moments. Even when I come in rooms and there's a loved one there and they speak English, I
Yeah.
call an interpreter. And granted, we're supposed to, right?
Yes. Yes.
But but what you're supposed to do and what you do is two different things. Because if you're just coming
Absolutely.
in there real quick to ask somebody, hey, did anybody, check your blood sugar,
Mhm.
real quick, it's really easy to, just ask somebody a couple questions.
100%. Yeah.
But I just I'm incredibly grateful for that interpreter, for all the hospital interpreters, but also for being open to learning from interprofessional team members, because there is a lot for them to teach us. And I don't know what impulsively made me ask her, what should we do better?
Yeah.
But the person she ended up directing all that to was me.
Yeah.
And as a leader on a team, I now realize how much of her lesson I've paid forward because I model it over and over and over again.
Mm,
And then I tell them about what happened when I was working with that interpreter and what she taught me.
mm.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm, I'm so grateful for this story. I mean, not only to give credit to our incredible interprofessional teams, and particularly the ones who really allow us to be human doctors,
Right.
and having high quality interpreters is so important. And even with high quality interpreters, we fail often to actually utilize them in the way that we should. I am very much guilty of this, especially when I was a resident in the hospital and trying to kind of cut corners. And people study this. We know that folks who are non-English speakers get worse care. And what I love about this story is particularly like the moment where she gave you the advice and you thought that you were already doing that.
Yeah.
And so often we don't even notice kind of how we just subtly approach people differently depending on, how we see them or not. And
I
I
mean, my
love,
question to her was a performance. And that's what I now acknowledge, right?
yeah.
I mean, if you had said that to me back then, I would have been offended, but I can say that about me. Like it was a performative question. It was me
Oh,
performing to the team
uh-huh.
that I regard the interpreter as important and so important that let her teach us something.
Oh, interesting.
Right. But
Yeah.
but not that she gonna teach me something because like I already know all the things. You know,
Yeah.
got nothing to learn. This is for y'all. And she put the spotlight smack on me.
Hmm.
And she was so smart and insightful that she knew that teaching me to fish would teach the whole team.
Mm.
And she knew that. And she was like, you do a great job, but this could elevate what you do and you'll have more fun. And the thing is too, is there is this sort of, I mean, I know there's all these types of love people have, like, Philos love and agape love and all these, romantic love and all this stuff, eros love, whatever. I don't know what the love is between a doctor and their patient. It probably needs its own word. But I think the thing that made me tear up was that my patients who do not speak English, I had never until that moment been able to lock into that kind of love with them. And it is my favorite part of being a doctor.
Yeah.
The moment where that love, that doctor to patient, patient to doctor, bidirectional love, like clicks, and we have that great therapeutic alliance, and we are like giving and taking from each other in a way that is elevating us both and
Mm.
co-creating something really special together.
Yeah.
People who do not speak English had not gotten that from me until that moment.
Wow.
And now I'm determined now when I go in the room, it's like, I'm going to find that. I'm
Mm.
going to find that. Instead of you just being some dude with a leg that's red, with words coming out of your mouth that somebody else is grabbing from the air and turning into words for me. You're a guy who used to live in Guatemala, but who then lived in Mexico City. And then after Mexico City for a little while, lived, right on the border over by El Paso, and then came to Atlanta to work. And then stepped on something and oh yeah, you need a pedicure. And oh my God,
Hmm.
you just might do it. Where should you go? It was dope.
I love it. I've told at least one story on here about, a patient where an interpreter like changed the entire course of our relationship and allowed me to really have a very productive and emotionally available goals of care conversation with
Yeah.
a patient that I was struggling to see.
Mhm.
The other part of this that it reminds me of is, especially in San Francisco, we have a lot of patients who speak a variety of Asian dialects.
Mhm.
And so there's language and like cultural barriers that make it hard to even begin to think about trying to build a human connection.
Mhm.
And I remember, an older Toishanese speaking patient in my clinic at the general, And her daughter would often come with her and do all of the talking. And one day I asked her if she could just teach me a couple of like basic words of Toishanese. And then I looked directly at her mother and like spoke these very basic and broken Toishanese words to her. And she just lit up, like, just even to see me try.
Right.
And so, you know, sometimes you don't have to move mountains. Just trying these subtle ways of seeing people, I think, is important.
Yeah. And I guess what got me thinking about all of that and even hearing about your patient just now is just the world is not universally warm toward people who do not have a mastery of English. They're just not right now. And if some slice of safety can be found in you when you already vulnerable as a patient,
Mm-hmm.
it's already scary as hell to be a patient, even
Let
if it's
alone one who doesn't speak the
yes,
predominant language.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But then even if the air quotes good guys, if they not even meeting you where you are, imagine the bad guys.
Yeah.
Like,
God.
it's just, so I think being a human doctor, there's all sorts of opportunities to elevate that.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 years ago, when that happened to me, I was considered a highly effective communicator. I was considered somebody who was well liked by interprofessional teams, somebody who cared about patients, and not somebody who needed to be, getting taught how to connect with people better. That was my jam. So I think the other piece is that there's always something to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm learning to not perform a question for
Ooh,
somebody, but to me,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate that it's so icky to even think of that
Mm-hmm.
way. But I know I did not think I had something to learn. I know I thought that the team had something to learn and that they would be so proud of how respectful I was to an interprofessional team member. Look at me showing you how to treat people. Yeah,
Well,
man.
your humility and grace with which you share these things, I think, is just, it's a gift to us because, you know, it's obviously a model for the need to continue to have a growth mindset, no matter how good you think that you are in any particular area. The work of caring for human beings is always one that's going to require us to stretch.
That's why those moments of talking to yourself kindly matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I described that, an opportunity for improvement and what I did by how I asked that question, there is a piece of it that was earnest,
Mm-hmm.
and I can follow that all those criticisms of myself up by saying, but I was open when she
Yeah.
prepared to give me that feedback. I didn't push back. I didn't act offended.
Mm-hmm.
And I allow myself to learn from her. And I have told some version of this story to people multiple times because I thought that it was so important what
Mm-hmm.
she taught me. And also, I think that it's a thankless job sometimes to
Yep.
interpret in a hospital. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, shout out to the interpreters, shout out to our colleagues who have gotten, certified to offer interpretation to their
Mm-hmm.
patients. Because just because you speak a language does not mean you can interpret it in a medical setting. So, and
Absolutely.
that's an added step in
Mm-hmm.
this work. So yeah, man.
I love it. Well, I hope you sent your patient to the same place where you just got your nails done because whatever they're doing is working.
Thank you. I don't know where he went, but I hope he went somewhere because them toes was jacked up.
In my mind, all I could think of was that scene from Black Panther, where it's just like, what are those?
Correct. Los dedos azules. Bro. Yeah, nah, bro. That you had to do something about them toes.
Yeah, yeah. Doctor's orders.
Oh, yeah. And the after visit summary. Get a pedicure.
Most importantly. Uh,
Well, sis, I deeply, deeply appreciate you and our connection and, you know, this space that we've been in for 9 seasons.
yep, yep. 9 seasons. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the gratitude and the respect is so mutual. So I know you got some interviews to get to.
I do got some interviews in 20 minutes so that I can get people to come to Emory University Department of Medicine for their residency training.
Yes. Well, shout out to those lucky interviewees who get to be in the presence for Dr. Manning before, they interview at UCSF and decide that this might be.
I was about to be like, okay, if you do not hit this underhanded pitch and come back and clap back, listen, pick the place that's best for you, and where they will fan your flames and be excited to have you. We'd certainly be excited to have you at our institutions. Yes. And we're also excited to have you listening to this podcast because you could have been anywhere, y'all. But you chose here to be with us. And we appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
All right, sis. Love you.
Love you too. That wraps up this week's episode of the Human Doctor Podcast.
Special thanks to our favorite brother gastroenterologist, Dr. Chuma Obiname, for the beats. Shout out to the Dr. Ashley McMullen for editing and production.
Mad love to our podcast family at The Nocturnist and the Clinical Problem Solvers, our Med Twitter fam.
And especially shout out to all of you, our listeners.
Until next week, remember,
we see you and you are enough. Holla!